Man, I feel like this is one of the biggest games of the year to this point. When you talk about some of the bigger matches, I feel like Ravens Chiefs, that Monday night game they had was a big one, but I feel like this is right up there with that. When you think about just the history of the rivalry itself between Steelers, Ravens, and how it's viewed not only in football, but just globally in terms of rivalries, then you look at the storylines between the head coaches, the storylines between the quarterbacks. I mean, it's just so much surrounding this game. And then the fact that both of their records, one team 6-0, the other team 5-1. I mean, everything you want is right here. I'm excited, man. I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
How do you want to start?
Man, you know what? We talk about how we love our quarterbacks, right? We love to talk about the offenses. We know this. So you know what? This week we'll start with offense again.
Ravens offense versus our defense.
No, man. I was going Steelers offense this time. See, man,
well,
come on, bro.
You threw me the curveball last week, so
got to keep you on your toes. You know that.
I understand. I understand. So we're going to be going Steelers offense versus Ravens defense here.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, man. I'll knock it out, man. I love the matchup. Personally, a couple of things that concern me. I'll go through the things that concern me first. After that, we'll talk about why I'm extremely excited. From a concern standpoint, obviously, we know Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters are ball hawks. We know they generate a lot of turnovers, whether it's interceptions or forced fumbles. We know what Marlon Humphrey has been able to do, just punching the ball up. We were victims of that last year. In their front, though, in terms of their front seven, it's three guys. Number one, Calais Campbell. He is a absolute mammoth of a man and it's crazy productive. Not only in the run game, but in the pass game as well. Obviously, we saw the 3 sacks he had against the Eagles, but what you don't see it just in the stat sheet. If you looked on the film, man, he probably should have had 5 sacks, but he was so disruptive, just being a force, taking on 2 and sometimes 3 guys and opening it up for a lot of the other defenders on that Ravens defense. He has to be handled. And luckily for us, we have David DeCastro, and David's going to see him almost exclusively just because of how he likes to line up over the right guard. So it's going to be one of those matchups where, man, bite down, make sure you're ready to go, but you got to bring your A game if you're DeCastro, which we fully expect him to do. But that right there, that is one of the biggest concerns to me. And then Yannick Ngakoue, man, he's a guy that can get after the quarterback and is not scheme related. And that was one of the biggest things that the Ravens have been missing this season. Matthew Judon, obviously he's a double-digit sack guy and definitely deserves respect. But the way he goes about getting his sacks is a little bit more related to the scheme, a little bit more related to the coverage and just great effort on his part. It's not a knock on him. That's just how it was. Whereas with Yannick doesn't need a call. Yannick doesn't need a blitz. Yannick is a guy you just line up and he's going to win. That's just the type of pass rusher he is. So that's the other guy in terms of when I said I have 3 and he's the second guy that I'm in terms of the order of concern. Calais is the first one, then is Yannick. And then the third guy is Patrick Queen, man. This kid can do it all. I mean, I was a fan of him, obviously, when he was in college. And then even when he was coming through the draft, I thought wherever he went, he was a playmaker. He's in the same mode of your Devin Bushes and Devin Whites. Rangy guys, can hit, just ultimate ball magnet playmakers. He is that. And yeah, when you watch him on tape, you see him flash. Now, obviously, he's still young, so he's dealing with some of that. But I just think as a whole, man, those 3 guys and Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters are the group that makes me the most concerned when we're talking about our offense versus their defense, because they do some really good things. But the thing that I'm excited about and why I feel like this is going to be great for our offense is this. Number one, we have too many weapons from a receiving standpoint. You could put Marlon Humphrey on whoever you want, and he'll take him out the game. I fully anticipate that happening, and I don't have issue with that, right? Unless you get the situation where Juju, he stiff-armed him and extends the play and makes it a great touchdown, right? If he doesn't...
Wait, did you watch that game too?
Yeah, I watched all the games.
No. I'm talking about last year. Like, did you rewatch it?
Yes, I did.
For this? So did I, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, man,
yeah,
how are we in this game? But
it's crazy,
right?
Like,
it was.
But the reason we're in it, defense. The defense and the turnovers were the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But Marlon, man, he's a lockdown corner, and literally in that game, I mean, it was a 2-play difference for Marlon Humphrey's stat sheet. Juju, he goes for the punch. Juju stiffs on him the first time. Juju scores. It's a great play. Second time around, he punches the ball out. We know how the game ends after that. Marlon is that type of defender, though. So whoever he's on, I fully anticipate that person kind of being minimized. But then when you talk about Marcus Peters, the reason I'm excited is this. Marcus Peters is a great corner. Don't get it twisted, right? He has amazing ball skills, great eyes. But his eyes are what get him in trouble as well. Because a lot of times on double moves, he gets lazy and he's looking back at the quarterback trying to jump a route. Even versus Philly, he should have gave up a 50-yard bomb. I think it was the second or third offensive possession. He just dropped the ball. Like, that happens a lot when you're watching Marcus Peters. He will get a pick. He will create a crazy splash play, but he has so just many, we call them eye violations, where this is where you're supposed to be looking, but he's looking over here, and it gets him in trouble a good amount. I think, man, obviously with Ben takes advantage of people like that. We saw a prime example, James Washington versus Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward, he gets very eyesy and jumps some routes at times, and we saw the double move that they put on him. I anticipate Ben connecting with one of these receivers in that same vein. So that's why I feel confident in that regard. And then when it comes to just moving the ball, I think as a whole, the way you're going to have to minimize Calais and Yannick, if you just sit back and try to drop back just consistently, yeah, they're going to get after it. But I think we'll be able to run the ball on them. I understand they have a really good run defense. Don't think I'm understating that. But the way our offensive line has been playing these past couple of games from a run blocking standpoint, they've been getting great movement up front. And I just anticipate them being able to continue that. And I'm loving this matchup of James Conner. Obviously, he's going to have to go back and forth with Patrick Queen. But if I can get James Conner on LJ4 or some of these other linebackers they've been using, I like that for James Conner. I think that's a benefit for him. And then obviously you have Eric Ebron as well, who's going to have to make those linebackers stay more honest, so they're not going to be able to fly downhill. That's the biggest reason why I feel good about this matchup for the Steelers offense against their Ravens defense.
You mentioned that whole Eagles play against the Ravens. Honestly, did you watch that game too?
Absolutely.
All right, so I know we mentioned it briefly. Mm-hmm. I think that Sunday, or not that Sunday, after the Monday, the Monday we recorded after Sunday football. And man, I didn't get to see the whole game, but like the Eagles coming back and everything, I'm like, all right, maybe is that kind of fluky? I actually really think the Eagles, from start to finish, should have won that game. The weird Carson Wentz turnover, that 50-yard bomb that you mentioned that the guy dropped.
He had a fourth and one stop as well.
The 4th and 1 stop. Yeah, Miles Sanders dropped that wide open touchdown, then they had 4th and 1.
Yeah, because they ran, it was a wheel route. It was an out and up they ran on the linebacker on LJ, and it was beautiful. Kind of like what I've been saying, what we're saying here in Pittsburgh about, man, some of these times with Vince, they're trying to work out and ups and wheel routes, and just ultimately, man, as a whole, the coverage and rush has been able to keep that from happening. Right there in that play, man, the rush wasn't there, and LJ was stuck, and literally, man, Miles, it should have been a touchdown. He just dropped it. Flat out. There's no excuse. He dropped it, man.
And the Eagles came back on him. So I looked at that game, and I looked at the Chiefs, just because, I mean, we all know the Ravens defense is good. They're a really good team, but those were the two squads that were able to kind of do something against them. Mahomes went off, and you saw Wentz flashes with Wentz, him bringing the team back. And like we said, I thought they just kind of played better, not played better, but like Wentz was able to do some stuff on him, even though they did get the pass rush, they did hurry him. So what was the main thing in those? I thought it was the splash plays. It was like the deep ball. It was just kind of catching them off guard and having that really big play. And I feel like we're definitely capable of that. Obviously, the Ravens have that good blitz and pass rush and all that, but we've seen how we've been able to mitigate that throughout the season with Ben's quick passes, get the running game involved. So it's one of those things where we haven't, I don't know, I guess we have faced decent pass rushes here. I mean, we talked about the Eagles, but we haven't faced the level of the Ravens. I think I'm just going to keep betting on us that we're just going to step up and perform. The offensive line's hitting its stride, so I'm with you on all that. I think it's just going to come down to like one or two big plays. Maybe we catch them off guard. You mentioned Marcus Peters. We have the talent there, so I'm feeling good about the offense, dude. I see it going two ways. I'll get to this with, I guess, my score predictions, but I think what?
You get to with your score predictions?
No, because I want to talk about.
You better not change it now. Heck no. It's 27-13.
I'm not changing the scores. I'm talking about just the essence of the game.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Essence of what I'm feeling is going to happen in this game.
No doubt.
I'll talk about that once we get to the Ravens offense versus our defense. But no, dude, I feel good about it. I just don't think it's going to be too much to handle. It is good on good. We've talked about this, but I think we've risen to the occasion every time up to this point. And we got the familiarity with Ben against the Ravens, that experience. So feel good about it.
So I'll say a couple of things just to when you're talking about the Ravens and Eagles game. The reason why it was close, a lot of penalties on the Ravens. I think they had 12 or 13 penalties in that game. That is huge. And that was, to me, not only with the penalties, but they also had a couple blown coverages. They ended up having a big pass down the right side, or excuse me, on the defense's right sideline. They had a miscommunication. Yeah, you could just see it was literally just a 2x2 day motion to make it 3x1 bunch. Marlon Humphrey is looking around trying to figure out what the communication is. Guy runs by him, catches it. If he stays up, he probably scores. Like, it's one of those scenarios. That's, to me, the biggest thing. Honestly, they are similar on defense to what we are here in terms of what we've seen this year. At times they flash, it looks really good. And then at times you see them and you're just kind of scratching your head like, man, how did that happen? Where was the disconnect, the miscommunication? The difference is obviously the Steelers, from my perspective, they have just more talent. So they've been able to overcome those obstacles. And that's why statistically they still look top notch. With Baltimore, they've been able to get away with it at times. Obviously the Chiefs game, that didn't happen, and then obviously the Eagles were able to start to take advantage of it, but that's been their biggest knock this year, which is crazy because that wasn't the case with them last year. Last year they communicated well, they didn't have a lot of penalties, they didn't have a lot of blown coverages. Right now though, they're showing that a lot on tape, and that's been the biggest reason why, number one, I don't think their defense, has been as good this year. And ultimately as a whole, even though they're winning, when you look at them statistically though, their numbers are down a lot more. Even Lamar Jackson's productivity is down a lot more compared to last year. And that's a direct, it's directly correlated, directly related to their performances and stuff like that.
Yeah, dude, I watched that Chiefs game. I'm like, dude, and what's crazy is looking back, do you remember like a couple of days after, a lot of people were flipping out like the Ravens suck, they got blown out and everything.
But people do that after everybody loses. It's crazy.
Dude, the Ravens were very much in that game, and I thought,
the second half, absolutely.
And I thought we're playing the Chiefs kind of toe to toe. What the difference is those big plays I was talking about. It was like 3rd and 10, and then Mahomes was able to scramble for a first down, and then there was another like 3rd down where Mahomes makes a bomb for a touchdown. And
we saw that in Philly as well. Carson Wentz on a 3rd and, was it 12 or it's 3rd and 16, he scrambles for like 20 something yards. We saw like they have been susceptible to the bigger plays, man.
Yeah, so I think we're capable of that. I know the essence of our offense has been, we're just going to pick you apart, get these first downs, but we've also seen the big playability. The Claypool pass against the Broncos, we've saw some big plays down the sidelines that's kind of broken the game open a little bit. So I think if Ben can pick his spots here, it's going to come down to those big plays with our offense versus their defense, making a difference.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I will say, watching the Steelers again against the Titans, now that the coaches tape came out, man, it was definitely good to see. So we got some questions answered. It definitely felt good to get those questions answered. But the thing that I was seeing, man, in terms of Ben in the offense, at time, I wouldn't say they were conservative, but they really did a good job of taking what the defense gave them. The only time he didn't, they ultimately were the turnovers that they ended up resulting in, where he kind of, like I said, forced some of the stuff. But as a whole, I thought he did a good job of taking what the defense gave him. He's going to need to continue to do that against Baltimore, because we already talked about just what turnovers mean in a game like this. And we know how much ball hawking corners they have in terms of Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. He can't get greedy. That's my thing, because I know we talked about it.
That's what happened. That's what happened with the Eagles. Like I said, I thought they were pretty much outplaying them. Not completely, but I mean, it was close, but it was those turnovers that really did them in, and those drops.
Yeah. So that's my thing. It's like, I know, and this kind of when we talk about the whole gunfighter thing, talking about the double coverage thing, can you make a play in that? Yes. But as a whole, you don't want to make a habit of that, because of games like this with corners like this, they will make you pay. And they've been doing that consistently. I mean, throughout both of their careers, when you look at Marlon Humphrey, obviously Marcus Peters, if you want to go to Kansas City or to LA, wherever he's been, he creates turnovers when you get greedy, when you take some chances against him. So that's my only thing that makes me a little uneasy. But knowing Ben too, man, in his history, when you look at his career, after he has a multi-game interception, a multi-game where he has, has a game with multiple interceptions. There we go. I was trying to get it out. Where he has a game with multiple interceptions. Typically, the next game he bounces back and plays really well. So definitely leaning on that in terms of just the overall thought process with it. But I know last week, you know what I mean? Like, people try to just justify that you can't do that this week. That's all I'm gonna say. We leave it at that. You already gave us what you felt. I know how you feel about 7 in that last week. That can't happen this week. That's all I'm saying.
Dude, big game. Ravens for the. I think this is for the AFC North then, right? Because they're 5-1. We're 6-0.
Oh, in terms of just taking over the lead of it? Sure, yeah.
Wait, you don't think it's that big of a deal right now?
For the division?
My point is
because like I feel like with fans, we focus on, hey man, this game right here will put us in first place of the division, or this game right here is important because it's a win against the AFC West, and when it comes to playoffs, man, you want to have that win on this division and that division. As a player, you don't care about none of that. You just care about this game and just winning it. Not, oh, if we win this game, we'll take over the North, because at the week 8 mark, it doesn't matter. You can have the lead in week 8, but then you drop 2 down the road and now it's an issue. So yeah,
I get it, but it's big. There's a lot of hype coming into this one, and I think everyone's going to step up. So that's what I'm feeling with the offense and what Big Ben is going to bring to the table. So.
I like it. Now we get to talk about some defense.
I'm good with that.
I want to talk more offense, man. We're going to talk Ravens offense.
Why?
Right?
Was there another little tidbit that you have for the offense?
I said I was going to talk Ravens offense. That's it.
Oh, sorry. I ruined it. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Nah, dude, that's it. All right, if they cover Claypool, it goes back to the Titans thing. I just think we have a lot of weapons. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of talent on offense, and we've been looking good so far this season. So obviously the Ravens are good, but I just think we're going to be a little bit better. It goes back to even what I was saying with the Titans. Everything's equal. We both play to the best of our abilities. I think we got the upper hand there.
I like it then. You want to go first with defense?
I'm good, dude.
All right.
We'll keep it rolling. You're first on this one, too.
All right. So for when we're talking about the Steelers defense going up against the Ravens, obviously with the Ravens offense, number one, it starts with Lamar. We know, I mean, he's the reigning MVP for a reason, man. He is extremely dynamic, even with this being a quote unquote down year for him, which, I mean, when you think about what he did last year, it's kind of hard to replicate that. So technically anything would be a down year from
there. There was some stats, though, up to week, what is it going to be, 7?
Week 8 now.
I think through week 6 or through week 6, through week 7, or through the first 6 games, whatever it was, that his numbers are actually really similar to his first 6 weeks last year. So, I mean, I don't know. There's some things I was looking up, some like Ravens talk and everything that they would say that they think his play took a little downturn this year. Like maybe there's some picks that have been dropped or whatever. But I don't know, dude. I think the games that I just randomly see or have been even rewatching here. Yeah. I think he looks fine, in my opinion.
No, he definitely looks fine. It's more of a numbers thing. People will talk about just his total offense yards. So typically last year, I think he was averaging around 288, 290. This year, he's around 240. But I think the biggest thing is just they're been ahead in pretty much all their games, man. And it's just a different style once they have that lead in terms of how they operate, in terms of not having to be as aggressive. And they just have one of those offenses where it just churns time. But on top of that, when you factor in some of these penalties, and that has really killed a lot of their drives as well, taking points off the board, taking yardage off of them, I think that kind of plays into it as well. That's why we always say, like, you can't just read the stat sheet, right?
They've had a lot of drops, too.
Yeah.
Especially in that Chiefs one. Like I said, that was a close game, actually. If Andrews doesn't drop the touchdown, there were a couple other ones. But it was just Mahomes making those big plays, like I kind of mentioned, that really made the gap.
But, and it's funny, you talked about that game, but just think about in general. I mean, we saw Brady and them lose week 1 against the Saints, and people were father time this, Brady has done that, and now look at them.
They just don't understand the game.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, man, you just because you have one bad game, that don't mean you done it. And if you really look at it, it's a lot that goes into these performances looking good or bad and things like that. We always say, I mean, this is one of the things as an athlete we'd always talk about. It's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. And typically when you watch the tape, that it holds true. I mean, throughout my college career, professional career, some of the best games I thought I had, I go in there, you're like, oh, all right, I'm gonna just go home today. Don't even interview me no more.
You were just in the moment there. You didn't really realize.
And then you got times where you like, bro, I stunk it up. This is probably my worst game ever. You walk in, you're like,
was it that bad?
It wasn't even that bad. I was all right. So it happens, man. It definitely happens. But going back to the Ravens offense, man, number one, like I said, it starts with Lamar. I mean, when he is able to extend plays and create, that's when he's at his best, when he's able to have his feet set and ultimately play to his pace, which is key. Him playing at his pace, even though it still looks fast, it's controlled for him. You can see he looks under control. He runs into problems once he's playing faster than he needs to, or faster than he wants to. His footwork gets out of whack. His throwing motion gets out of whack. Absolutely. The pressure is big in that. When he isn't able to play at his pace, when his footwork isn't where it needs to be, he struggles. He misses on a ton of throws, and they're usually high. And it's not crazy. It's not like these crazy outlandish misses, but it's like it's supposed to be in the chest work and in the framework of their chest. A lot of these are high, even though they're hitting these receivers in their hands when they're outstretched the way they're having to outstretch. That isn't good. That's not very accurate. But a lot of those throws are directly related to his footwork. Very similar to when we talk about Josh Allen. He's another guy. When we talk about guys who have strong arms, but accuracy isn't a natural thing for them. You have to make sure your footwork is key. You have to make sure that your throwing motion is going through and doing exactly the same thing every time. He still has some inconsistencies with that, and a lot of his misses are related to that. And for me, I'm excited because obviously with our defense, long overthrows don't fall harmlessly to the ground. Passes that are tipped off of hands don't fall harmlessly to the ground. And that happens a lot on his passes. And we know with our secondary, they capitalize on that. Another thing that we know about, we said with Lamar is what? Man, when you make him have to move around, right? When you're able to pressure him, our defense creates pressure multiple ways, whether it's through our interior D linemen, our edge guys, blitzing, inside or outside blitzing, whether it's Vince or it's a nickel corner. We have all of that in the repertoire. So that's the thing that I think is really good, because when you look at their receivers, Willie Snead and Hollywood Brown, they're not going to scare you like that.
Nope.
Obviously, Mark Andrews is a touchdown machine. He generates points. He does do that. And their offensive line, I think, is good, but they're not how they used to be. And ultimately, the running game, I feel like with the way our run defense is, I'm not really concerned about that. But it is a different challenge, though. And I don't want people to just think, well, they stopped Derrick Henry. Oh, just repeat process against Baltimore. Totally different.
It's
Whatever
different.
you did versus Tennessee, throw it away. It has zero to do with this week, because some of the backside tackles that we saw TJ and Bud have where they were unblocked and flying in, you fly in like that against Baltimore, Lamar's pulling that ball and hitting his head on the goalpost. We have seen that too many times. Even Philly, man, we saw him run one, hit his head on the goalpost. So that's the only thing, man, that concerns me, because you're going to have to take that aggression that the Steelers do play with on defense and taper it down a little bit and understand this is more fundamental. Think of just the high school option. Like it's an option team. They're just doing it out of the gun and sometimes out of the pistol and things like that. But you can't just fly back there, because those are the type of offenses that will hurt you against an aggressive defense like that. So that's my only, I guess, big concern. I feel like from as a whole, though, I think the defense has been communicating a lot better, especially lately. And we're not seeing as many mix-ups, not as many blown coverages. And I think that's going to continue that number of mess-ups and missed tackles and things like that are going to continue to decrease now that the season is continuing to keep going. And I just see it where I just think they match up extremely well against Baltimore.
Yeah, dude, it's interesting because, like I said earlier, with all the hype, clash of the I guess you could say this is the real clash of the Titans here as opposed to the Tennessee Steelers. I mean, I feel like with this rivalry and everything, the story here, this is probably the bigger game. As much as last week was a big game, this is probably the bigger game. I feel really good about our defense versus their offense, and it goes back to us playing the Texans, us playing the Eagles, actually. I think the main goal in both of those games, we talked about this, was like, can we contain Deshaun Watson? Can we contain Carson Wentz? Because they're going to be the ones that are making things happen. We're not too concerned about their receiving core, how's their running game. And in this case, if you look at Lamar and their receivers, like that's what it's going to be. I think Lamar is definitely better than Deshaun Watson and Carson Wentz, so that's going to be more of a challenge. But you brought it up. I don't think there's really anyone in their receiving core that worries me, because what worries me is the big plays and someone getting behind our secondary and him bombing one up for like 50, 60 yards. They don't really do that with Marquise Brown. I think there was like 2 times he had a pass that was like over 35 yards, and one of them was Lamar running around in the backfield and making stuff happen, and then Marquise Brown coming back and then making the play. So I just don't really see it there. So now we go to the running game, and you mentioned this. It's just a whole different thing, because the Ravens' running game and just how they operate with the option and just their system is way better than the Texans and Eagles.
Yeah, it's not even close, man.
So we do have the harder matchup in terms of trying to contain Lamar versus Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson there. Receivers, I guess you could say across the board, maybe it's equal. We learned after the Eagles how good this Fulgham guy is. Like, he kind of carved us up. But, like, that's what I'm saying. The Ravens don't have a guy like Fulgham.
So this is the only thing that I feel like people fall into the trap when we talk about Ravens offense. we understand they run spread offense, right? Very college, like in terms of the zone read. And from there, we forget the zone read element of it and just think, okay, well, after that, man, they're trying to air it out downfield. That's not their game. Mark Andrews is their guy. That's the one they want to feature. And that's, I mean, when you watch them, he's the guy they're trying to, that's option number one in the pass. And then from there, he works to Hollywood and Willie Snead. It's weird in terms of him. It's almost like he works backwards in his progressions. Like with Ben, he's going deep, intermediate, short, right? The tight end or the check down is like the last option. With Lamar, the tight end and the check down is like the first option. And then, all right, if I move around a little bit and somebody comes open late, then I'm going to take the shot. How often, I mean, just think about with Lamar, how often have we really seen him just drop back? Oh yeah, 1,000, 1,002. Now I'm taking this shot downfield. I mean, he can do it.
I saw the drop with Mark Andrews that one time with the Chiefs, but yeah, it's not
what they do
at a high frequency,
right? Correct. And a lot of it is kind of similar to Tennessee in terms of off of run fakes, run actions. Now they want to take their shots. The difference is it just looks different because they're doing all theirs predominantly out the gun, whereas with Tennessee, it's under center, so it's already defined when they're trying to go play action pass.
That's a good point because their one big play literally happened on like a slant. There wasn't anything at one point where they were bombing it down there, but that's what killed us in the Broncos game and the Eagles. Is these dudes just have this air raid offense and they're bombing it. So we contained the dudes that I mentioned. Like, all right, we got to stop Deshaun, we got to stop Carson Wentz because they're going to make things happen in the backfield and kind of just create opportunities. So we did that. Lamar's going to be the harder matchup. I think we're going to be able to do it for sure because, one, we did it last year. It was the first
5 sacks, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, 3
turnovers. Yeah, 3 picks.
They looked a lot. Well, we both rewatched the game. They looked a lot better in the first half, and I was like I said, I was surprised as I'm watching this. I'm like, how did we take this to overtime? But we did a lot better job in the second half containing Lamar.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the turnovers help, but I don't know how much you want to say a couple of those were even fluky. The one hit Mark Andrews off the chest, but like you said, it was a little bit off. It wasn't perfect, and then we got it. It was one of those tip things. Yeah. And then the Devin Bush one,
that went crazy. Watching that again was how? I still don't know how it worked out.
I would say his only bad, really bad pick was the one to Mike Hilton right before halftime. That was right to him. Yeah. So we were able to contain Lamar last year. We contained quarterbacks that have a similar style to Lamar, just in terms of the offense goes through them. They can make things happen. So then the real concern is the running game. We haven't faced a running system like this because it's so unique.
Yeah, it's different.
But we've been successful against the run, so I'm just going to lean on that, hoping that we could replicate it this week, even though it is going to be a little bit different. So I feel good about defense too.
The only thing that makes me nervous about our defense is Mark Andrews versus our linebackers right now, whether it's Vince Williams, whether it's Robert Spillane, or even if they try to use Ulysses Gilbert. And the biggest thing is this. Number one, Spillane and Vince can't run with Andrews on that type of level. Gilbert can, but if you're going to have Gilbert out there to that extent, he's going to be asked to do a lot more when it comes to the run game. And right now, he just, from the coach's perspective, or at least that's what I'm assuming, because how they're using him exclusively on third downs, is something that he's not doing enough of when it comes to the run game. So that's why they haven't been using him in that avenue. So that's my only concern is how are we going to combat Mark Andrews? Because we could sit here and talk about this run game, and if Vince and Spillane get to just play downhill and not have to worry about the pass, I think they'll shut the run down with no issues. But the problem is you fly down against Baltimore, that tight end is just trying to get past your depth. That's it, just past linebacker depth. So you're deep enough. So you're behind the linebackers, but you're shallow enough that the safeties, they're not going to be bothering you and things like that. That's what concerns me the most, because we have seen them being able to move the ball, and they don't mind being methodical either. They'll put together 10-play drives it's nothing. They do that.
It's similar with the Steelers and Ravens.
Absolutely.
From that aspect,
and that's what I was saying. This is identical. I just feel like we have more talent, but the way we go about doing things, there's a reason why both of these organizations are where they are. They are very similar in just terms of structure, in terms of how they're run from top to bottom, philosophies and things like that. And that's why this matchup is always big. That's why these teams are always in the mix. And that's why I feel like, it's just always fun when you get Steelers and Ravens, man. But that to me is my biggest concern, man. Just how are our linebackers going to respond to Mark Andrews, especially because we play a ton of man too. And that's the thing. It's they're going to be put in some of those situations, some of those positions. how do they stand up to it? If they can stand up to it and they do that good for the majority of the game, I don't think it's an issue.
Would you be bringing this up if we had Bush? Like I still would. The concern level wouldn't be where it is right now, though.
Put it like this, I still would be, because even this season, right, with Devin Bush before he got hurt, we talked about how when when Jeff Driscoll started to focus on Noah Fant, Noah was a problem for Devin. It wasn't oh yeah, man, he's locking him down. Like, no, we talked about how in the second half, we was like, man, we're glad that he waited this long to start keying in on the guy. Mark Andrews is in that same type of vein in terms of what he can do from a receiving standpoint and scoring points, especially in the red zone. So even with Devin, I felt a little bit more confident, sure. Yeah. But you still know, like, hey, man, not too many linebackers specifically are shutting down Mark Andrews. That's the only thing with that. So that would be, I would still have that concern. Okay. I just feel like as a whole, though, man, shutting down the run, it's weird to explain it. I feel like you have to minimize Mark Andrews before you can get to the run, because if you solely focus on the run, Mark Andrews has that ability, like I said, to get down there behind linebacker depth. So it's not going to kill you in terms of
maybe we put Edmonds on him or something. Like we have like a little spy or just someone almost doubling him a little bit.
Well, and this is the thing, though. So this is why I talk about why I'm nervous about it, because that thought process, you still want to spy Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So you're running out of personnel.
So what are you thinking then? Could you do that with TJ and Bud somehow, some way?
You can,
like almost like a QB contain in Madden.
It's all good.
I'm just telling
you. No, this is the thing though. So you have a couple of ways in terms of if you were gonna implement a spy, which I don't think they will spy out the gate. You turn to a spy if you can't keep Lamar in the pocket, right? You have one or two of these rushes and he takes off. Coaches are going to say, hey, look, I'm not dealing with this. We're going to have a spy. Now, the different ways you could do a spy is this. So you can have it where you just typically have your 4-man rush, and since they're playing cover one anyways, with cover one, you have your 2 linebackers on one of the running backs, right? So one guy is going to be free. Instead of him being the low defender where he's looking to help out in coverage, that defender would just solely focus in on Lamar. You can do that in cover one. Now, if you start trying to switch the coverages up, now you're going to be short a man. So you really, when you do spy, it kind of forces you to just play one or some very one-off style zone coverages that really you don't want to do a lot of, right? Then the other thing you can do is have TJ or Bud simply say, all right, we're going to have a 3-man rush, and you just sit at the line of scrimmage. Wherever he goes, you follow him. That's good for the spot, but for the rush, it kind of sucks because you only got 3 guys. So now you're not getting the pressure on him that you want. So now on the back end, you got to cover a lot longer. So that's why I say, like, it's very challenging. It's not as cut and dry as, well, just play assignment football. They run zone read. We got this and there, because there's certain things that they can do to really stress out our defense. But the thing is, we do have the athletes, and that's the biggest saving grace. But for me, you have to contain Lamar. So I think it's more so on Bud and TJ, because they're going to allow those guys to rush, especially early on. They're going to say, hey, go out here and rush. Be smart. Be smart, meaning don't run all, the old school Bud where he run the hoop around the quarterback. None of that. Also, you can't do a whole bunch of these jumping inside things because you're not going to have it contained. Who can get outside the pocket. So with Bud and TJ, there's going to have to be very disciplined in terms of when they're rushing. All right, if I'm quarterback level, meaning if I'm 4 or 5 yards deep and I'm eye to eye with him or at the same level of him, I can't go past that because it's going to give him a natural escape lane. For your interior D lineman, Cam into it, because this pertains more so to your sub package ball, right? Whereas for D lineman, with Cam into it, y'all can't get a situation where both of y'all end up on the same side of the ball, meaning if the center is right here, Cam and Tuitt are both on the left side of that center or both on the right side, because once again, natural escape lane for Lamar. So you really have to be disciplined in terms of how you rush him, but you don't want to not rush him because then he's going to have forever and put a lot of strain on your secondary. So that's why we're saying, man, it's very unique. But it could go really good or it could go really bad. And that's the only thing that makes me a little uneasy when we're talking about just our defense against their offense. Because of Lamar's ability to run, we haven't seen a team where their quarterback is this content with running.
He's their best runner. You look at their stat sheet, he has the most rushing. I don't know if overall,
I know it was the case last year. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, because whenever I'm looking back at some of the games, like he's the leader in rushing yards game in and game out. So I'm assuming he does have the most rushing yards on the team because they do use 3 different running backs. Right. But yeah, every game that I've watched, it just seems like he's been the difference maker in the running game.
Absolutely.
Where he's doing the play action, whatever, and then he's able to run for 10 yards.
And they have legit designed QB keepers and stuff for him.
Those are their best runs. Hey, I don't know what his yards per carry is, but I think it's over 6 or something like that. So it is the most interesting thing. And one of the things, I think you mentioned this, that has brought Lamar problems is just rushing him though. Whenever you get the pressure,
right.
But then that's the delicate thing of, all right, you get the pressure, but then you might be leaving one side of the field wide open or just like maybe some type of level of the field open where he could easily get the 10 to 15 yards if he's able to escape that. So it's like, all right, the rush, the contain, the spy, it's like, it's a delicate balance of all that stuff.
Absolutely. So that's why I'm like, it's never as cut and dry as, just leave a spy out there. Because when you do that, you're either taking one guy from the rush or you're taking a guy out of coverage. And if you take a guy out of coverage, you're isolating what you can do from a coverage standpoint. And I mean, at the NFL level, if I know this is what you're going to be doing, because we're going to find out their thought process in that first quarter. If it's no spy, if it's all right, we're going to use a spy, and we'll know, like I said, really soon. It doesn't take long for teams to really tip their hand. Then from there, it's like, all right, what are you going to do once they figure that out and start to combat that? You know what I mean? And that's the whole chess match, the back and forth that you're going to have to go through. And that's what makes it so unique and why I'm so excited about the matchup, because with Lamar bringing that element, that chess match just goes to a whole nother level. Whereas last week it was more so, it's very simple what to do. It's just more so the physical element. This week it's more so mentally, man. It's going to stress you in terms of doing your assignment. And then in terms of, all right, we've done our assignment. We got them on the ground. Now they've changed to this. How do we combat that element of it? So I'm excited, man.
No, for sure, dude. We want to just get into score predictions then.
Oh, so you don't want to talk special teams this week, huh? You called the kicker last week, and this week, you legit got the best kicker in the NFL this week, baby. There is not a debate about it. It's
Hold on. Didn't they took one back to the house on the Chiefs, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
They did. And Ray McLeod, maybe there's something here.
You got an X Factor here? You got an X Factor?
I'm good. I think
because
I think our X Factor is going to be one of the receivers. That's what I think. I don't know who's it going to be. Like you said, the opposite of maybe Marlon Humphrey. Our 2 or 3 guy could maybe go off like Deontay, because I don't know if they're going to focus on Claypool. Maybe I'm reading too much into the TV narratives, and Deontay goes off. I don't know. Yeah,
because I did check that.
You checked this again.
Did check that.
So Claypool could go off this week. One of our 3 receivers.
Well, yeah, because this is the thing. When they were talking about the whole Claypool's drawing all this coverage, Malcolm Butler's following him around, that wasn't the case. Malcolm Butler did follow him around for a good amount, but he didn't exclusively follow him. And when he did play man. And I thought Malcolm did a really good job. It was weird because I felt Chase still played well, but he didn't get a lot of targets. And Malcolm Butler did do a good job of being handsy with Chase in that 5-yard area, and he did struggle to get off of that a little bit. But for some of the in terms of Chase's downfield routes where he was coming open, Ben, I don't know what it was.
It goes back to what you're saying, taking what the defense gave us.
Well, this is the thing. So not just taking what the defense gave him. Sometimes Ben was predetermining where he would go, where it was, all right, ball snap, he's looking to Juju right now, even though guys were coming open downfield, Chase being one of them. I was actually a little frustrated for Chase because I was like, man, dude, Chase should be killing right now, but we're not looking at him, and it's making me mad. Knowing Ben, though, and knowing just the offense in general and Randy Fichtner, they're going to see that, and they're telling themselves right now, man, look, we gave the Titans DBs too much respect. We gave Malcolm Butler too much respect, not really going at him with Claypool. Get him more involved, because when we and I sent you some of the pictures in terms of you would see Malcolm Butler one-on-one with Claypool, but Juju on a linebacker, even though he has a safety helping him, it's the optical illusion of you think it's Juju on a linebacker and it's not. It's really Juju with this safety. Safety's playing him high to low. The linebacker's just giving him body position. And sometimes, like I said, it would get Ben. It would catch him off guard. And ultimately, we saw the things that played off of that. But for me, Chase Claypool one-on-one with Malcolm Butler, that's open to me. Though, and when we talk about just the decision-making last week, and that's kind of why we kind of went back and forth the other day, that to me is I would take that throw 1,000 times over Juju on a linebacker with 2 safeties closing in, or a safety just sitting over top of Juju from the snap of the ball. That's not open to me. That's not a good throw. And you have to be perfect every time. Otherwise, it ends up how it ends up. That's my only thing. I think this week, though, they're going to see that and know that, hey, man, Chase is physical. Man, Malcolm Butler tried to bully Chase at times, and Chase, man, was driving him off the ball. Like, I love Chase's mindset and his energy, because even though he was being used as not even a decoy. Just they were putting him into just run block at times. I just love the enthusiasm that you would see his body language, man. He's out here literally blocking all day and he's getting hype after a block, moving a guy 2 to 3 yards. Like, I love that about him because we know if you can keep your energy high when the ball is not coming to you, man, when you get those opportunities, we know you're going to cook. So for me, man, I think that we're going to see him be featured a lot more this week than last week, man.
All right, so I'll say Claypool X Factor then. Like I said, I think it's going to be one of the receivers. I don't know who it's going to be, but maybe Claypool's due. And
I think he's perfect for this matchup, man. When you talk about just the physical nature of Steelers and Ravens, dude, watching Claypool on tape last week really like solidified the physical, because we know from an athletic ability standpoint, he's fast, he can catch, but I just enjoyed just seeing how physical he was all game, man.
You mentioned the blocking. Do you remember whenever we drafted him, that whole Notre Dame video came about?
Absolutely.
Dude, you should send me or tell me where these things are, because maybe we could find some of these clips that I don't know if they're out there. We could be sending them out like, yo,
show you, man.
Yo, look at Claypool blocking here. Steelers football, Steeler mentality.
Dude, the whole time I'm watching him on tape, I'm like, bro, I absolutely love his energy. It reminded me of like a bigger, more athletic version of Hines Ward. Like no exaggeration. Really just watch him, just like, oh my. And Malcolm Butler, I respect him because Malcolm has that little guy energy. I love little guy energy where, all right, he's undersized, but he's out here puffing his chest, talking crazy, pointing at you, pushing. Like, you see them go back and forth from the start of the game last week, man. And literally, man, even in the fourth quarter, it did not matter. Chase is still trying to get after him, pushing him. I think one time he took him to the sideline. I was like, heck yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about, baby. If you going to block, do it the right way. So I think that's
my X factor.
So you're going to take that shit?
You don't have him? Are we agreeing on this? Are we agreeing on Claypool?
You told me it was Deontay, man. Did you say Deontay?
I said no. You clarified everything though. Oh. Maybe you shouldn't have said anything. Because I have new information now. I said whoever's going to be the open guy. Maybe they're paying too much attention to Claypool, so Deontay gets wide open and Ben goes to him. So now you just said everything. Yeah. You tipped your hand too much. Now I got to say Claypool.
No, that's cool, man. Because for me, the real X factor is Justin Tucker.
Come on.
What?
No. What I mean is, if you're gonna say Claypool, just say Claypool. Don't make me saying him sway you.
No, I just wanted you to say him.
We can agree on that.
No, I didn't think he was the X factor. I think he's gonna play well regardless.
All right.
Tucker's the X factor. Tucker's good from 60. That's the issue,
man. So kicker's X factor. The ball is Tucker matchup. Or you just want to say one player?
It's just
See,
I
said the matchup last week.
Yeah, it's just one, because I'm not worried about. We know what Boz is. We know his range. Tucker is kind of like when you create your player on Madden. Imagine most of us create our players as quarterbacks, safeties, receivers, running backs. Imagine if you just created your player on Madden as a kicker, and he's like the perfect kicker, man. Like, it's crazy. I don't know what is on his leg. It's like a nuclear warhead, but literally this dude is money and stupid accurate. I've never seen anything like it throughout my life. Yeah. We need to make sure that it's not one of those situations where, game winning kick on the line, because I can assure you he's not Gostkowski and he will hit it from the logo. That's all I'm saying with that. So take that for how you want to take it, but let's make sure it's not one of those situations. It could be a 3-point game. I don't have an issue with that. Just make sure it's not is he gonna miss the game when he kicked like the dude last week? Let's sit here hold our fingers. I can promise you.
Or Vinatieri last year.
I can assure you, don't even get yourself in that position. He don't miss. Not like that. Mm-mm.
All right, so we just mentioned 3-point game. Do we want to get into score predictions?
Oh, you got us, man. You already said 27-13. We got that.
27-13, but I wanted to give my essence of how I think things are going to go.
Right.
It's either it's going to be close, like you mentioned, and Steelers get the win. So, actually, this is weird. I should have said all this and then said my score.
27-13.
27-13, though, no matter what. It's either going to be close.
It could be close. 27-13.
It's either going to be close.
Or it's a blowout, but it's still 27-13.
It's either going to be close or we blow them out. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
We're able to figure out the running game. Our run defense is awesome. And then maybe we make one or two of those big plays early on and we blow them out. That's what I'm thinking.
I did have a question.
Those are the two ways. It's either close game we win or blowout we win.
I did have a question, though.
Okay.
So 27-13 is considered a blowout, right?
I don't know. I think that's like the happy medium. I don't know.
So is 27-13 considered a close game, too? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that a blowout?
We know why I'm saying this score, dude. Let's be real. We know why I'm saying this.
No, because you're not superstitious. So I'm just curious, We're week 8 now, just trying to figure this whole thing out. It's 27. I just need to know from my perspective, like, because I don't want to get out here and be like, man, I think this is going to be a close game. And
I don't know.
To you, it's 27-13 is close. I'm like, I thought one score was closer. Like, I don't know.
That score is like a happy medium.
But then it's like, oh, that's a blowout. It's 27-13. Then I'm like, I don't think that's a blowout per se. If it was like 30-13, like, that's a blowout when you get them 30s and higher. But I was trying to figure out, like, you know what I'm saying, just your energy, baby. That's it.
Probably eye test. You'll be able to tell whether it's close or blowout.
All right.
That's all. It'll be that score, 27-13. But you'll be able to tell. Just notice with the game flow and everything, because, it could be 14-13 in the fourth quarter, like close. It feels close, but then maybe the Steelers get ahead. You would still say close game, but then it could also be 27-13 where we're up 27-0 at half. They get some 13 points, garbage time, and then you say it's a blowout. So that's kind of how I feel.
That's what it is? All right, there we go then. Probably lean in 24-20 Steelers.
All right, nice.
I think it's going to be close. I think it will be.
Honestly, that's been another consistent thing where we've both picked the Steelers up to this point. So that's another thing that's kind of
like I said, for me, I'm just trying to figure out the math on it. Like I said, I said 16-0. I'm putting mine where my mouth is. I don't mind being wrong, but I just feel like this is the year. I'm still trying to figure out them 3 games. That's I'm just doing my math. Like, all right, it's still early. We good. So, yeah.
Maybe they don't exist, and I'm good with that.
Well, then I feel like, I'm saying, like, what's up with the pick then? It makes me a little nervous. That's why for me, I'm just keeping it all the same. All right. So this is more so I'm picking what I'm picking anyways. We not in unison here. All right. You over there because I'm waiting to see those 3. I'm on the good side. I'm not worried about it.
You don't got to worry about it. I told you coming in, though, you're not going to hear those 3 games. You're just not.
So that's my mindset with it, man. But ultimately, I just think that the Steelers as a whole are the more talented team. And throughout these past 2 to 3 weeks, they've been playing cleaner football. The last time Baltimore was on the field, like I said, they had, I think it was either 12 or 13 penalties. Obviously, they didn't play their best game against the Eagles, but they still found a way to get it done, which I never take for granted. And we talked about that with the Steelers. We've had some ugly games, but it's like, hey, we still took care of business. Through it all, you find a way to get the job done. The biggest thing for me, though, when I'm just looking at the matchup, I think that, number one, Ben will take advantage of Marcus Peters and a little bit of that undisciplinedness that he plays with. I think that the Steelers will be able to move the ball. Now, they obviously they're going to have some issues against Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's a good team for a reason. They were 14-2 last year. They're 5-1 for a reason. So it's going to be some back and forth with it. But I just think offensively, they're going to be able to move the ball with the Steelers. In terms of the Steelers offense, that's what I'm talking. They're going to be able to move the ball on Baltimore. I don't think Baltimore has enough talent on the back end. I think their corners are really good. Deshaun Elliott has been playing really well as well. I thought he's filled in, taking over the starting spot now that Earl's gone. I think he's been doing a phenomenal job. I definitely wanted to give him kudos and give him some respect because I know earlier on I was getting on him like, man, I don't know who this kid is. Man, he's got to suck, but he's been playing well, creating some turnovers for them. But still, just they don't have enough on the back end. And then for us defensively, I think Lamar is going to have some success. I think he will hit a couple plays on us. But I do think that with how loose he holds the ball when scrambling, that there will be one of those big strip sack turnover type situations. Because even against Philly, I mean, it was times in the pocket where he's taking the ball away from his body and literally like it's in one basketball, takes the ball and just reaches over a defender. I'm like, bro, that is crazy. That is not good, like, ball security, man. You know how much could go wrong when you're whirly-birding this arm with this football out here like that. He does that a lot. And with the Steelers, when you watch them, every time they're tackling somebody, especially when there's multiple guys, they are hunting the ball. They're not just trying to tackle the guy. They're trying to create turnovers. And I just think that they're going to be able to create some of those scenarios with how loose he handles the ball.